You ever have one of those days where things just don't go well? Overnight, I was trying to 3D print some parts to use in the truck build today, and I woke up this morning to find out my extruder had clogged and I had no parts. I thought, that's no problem, I'll just come out and start cutting some of the aluminum extrusion, and then my bandsaw blade broke. These kinds of things always seem to happen in threes, so I have no idea what's coming next, but let's see what we can get done today. So thanks for tuning in and welcome back to the shop. If you're new here, this is our 2013 Mitsubishi Fuso FG, and we're turning it into an overland camper. In our most recent videos, I've been working on the electrical system, but in the last episode, I switched to building the rear furniture. The basic frame up for this side of the rear wasn't too complicated, but when we get to the other side, there's a couple of additional factors that come into play. Mainly number 1 and number 2. This is our Nature's Head composting toilet. It stows underneath the sleeping area, but it slides out into the shower area. This means I need to mount a set of slides on the inside of the framing. And while this may sound simple enough, keep in mind that I'm right now standing in the shower pan and we don't have drains that go through the floor, so I'm going to have to install a pump. Actually, I need to install 2 pumps, one in each rear corner of the shower pan. These pumps will be used to pull the water up out of the shower pan and send it over to the gray water tank. But what about mounting the drawer? The easy way to do this would be to mount the drawer slide directly to the inside of the extrusion. But then the only spot I have for the pump is where the drawer goes. Now if I bring the drawer slide in an extra width, I have enough width for the pump, but it has to go through solid aluminum. If I move the extrusion over far enough that I have room for the pump in between the 2 extrusions, I don't have enough width to slide the Nature's Head out. But, no pun intended, I have come up with a way to make this work. The first thing I need to do is get a blade on the bandsaw. I've broken these before, so now I always keep a spare on hand. Luckily, it's not difficult, and after a few minutes, I can hit play. That works. I purchased all my T-slot as 20-foot lengths. Buying in full lengths is more economical compared to purchasing shorter pre-cut pieces, but if you don't have the ability, there are many places online where you can create your design and they will cut the pieces and send you your build as a kit. In order to space the slide in, but not use an excess amount of the T-slot extrusion, luckily before my printer clogged, I was able to design and print a number of these T-slot spacers, and they're designed so that one of these nuts can also slip inside to give me a thread. This will allow me to install the second T-slot 1 inch away from the first, and then I can mount the drawer slide to this T-slot. For now, they just slide together. Oh, it's becoming more and more evident that my 3.5 hours of sleep last night wasn't enough. I've just cut that piece 2.5 inches too long. But trimming off is easier than recutting, and I'm sure I'll have a use for these shorter pieces somewhere else later. That's better. It may seem a little random, but each of these is going to line up with one of the bolts from the track. And you'll notice I've stopped this track farther back than this one because that is what creates the space for our pump. Next, when the track gets mounted here and we install the end piece, this will create a perfect size pocket that we can put the pump in and out of if we ever need to maintain it. Hey, don't forget, this channel is brought to you by you. That's right, every time you click on an Amazon associate link in one of our video descriptions, it helps support the creation of the content on this channel. It doesn't matter what you buy, just click one of our links before you do your Amazon shopping, and you are helping to support the creation of this content. Thanks. Now, in order to fasten all of this together, I need to fabricate some aluminum brackets. Luckily, I have the perfect piece of leftover scrap channel from when I built the mounts for the camper jacks. If you're interested in seeing me fabricate them, check out this video. In fact, if you haven't already, make sure you check out all our other videos on this build, and why not hit subscribe at the same time. With the channel cut into 3 pieces, I cut the channel depth down from 4 inches to 2 7/8. Next, I cut each side of the channel off to leave me with a nice L bracket. Repeating this on all 3 slices gives me 6 L brackets, exactly the quantity that I need for the 2 drawer slides. Using up small scrap like this is super satisfying.
After cutting, I gave each of them a quick pass with my deburring tool, which, if you don't have one yet, follow the link in the video description. I use this tool all the time and it really does a great job of cleaning up all sorts of parts for a much more professional looking and safer to handle sharp corner free finish.
With a good set of brackets cut and deburred, the next step is going to be drilling clearance holes to put a bolt here and here. And because I've made it from a thick enough material, the hole where the slide attaches will be drilled and tapped.
A quick measure on my square and I can transfer the hole locations to the part with my super precise fine-tipped scribing tool. Then, after drilling the aluminum, I can place the brackets and my holes line up perfectly to drop the bolts in.
Now just before I start to mount the track, there's a little bit of a problem that I know I'm going to run into. You see, at the back end of the track, we have a perfect mounting hole for a 1/4-20, and the rail slides right over top of it, no problem. But for some reason, there seems to be a common problem with tracks like this. When we extend the track to expose the last bolts, the same hole is there, but the head of the bolt doesn't fit through the upper track. The only reasoning I can think of behind this is that I'm using imperial fasteners and maybe these tracks were made for metric. But this has the potential to be a difficult problem to solve. It's not very much, but it is very difficult to open up a square hole to allow this round head through. In addition to that, if I'm drilling or grinding in here, I don't want the debris to get into the ball tracks because that can really mess them up for the rest of the life of the tracks. So I came up with a really simple solution. My first thought was to just pop this out, stick it in the lathe and turn the head down. But I wanted the solution to work for everyone, not just people who happen to have a metal lathe sitting in their basement. So what do you do when you don't have a metal lathe? Well, take the screw out,
gently secure it in the chuck of a drill, and using your favorite rotary material removal machine, or potentially a file if you don't have one, we are set. By spinning the two in opposite directions, we can quickly and easily remove a very small amount of material uniformly from around the outside edge of the head. It doesn't take much, so it doesn't take long, but be very careful not to over-tighten the chuck and damage the threads. By super precise eyeball, that looks about right.
And with a very slightly smaller head, you can now drop the screw in. That process literally takes about 15 seconds per screw, and I cannot think of an easier way to fix that problem.
Now we can get the mounts aligned and all of the screws installed easily.
For now, I'm leaving this all just assembled loosely until I have both sides done and the drawer installed. Then, when everything's aligned, I can tighten it up. But there's one more area that doesn't really have enough strength yet. Right now, this front corner is just flopping around. And I think we can do better than that. Now either it just so happens or it was perfectly planned that a piece of 2-inch box tube exactly fits in here.
Sticking this scrap in the bandsaw and taking a 2-inch long slice of the aluminum box tube forms a simple bracket. After drilling a few well-placed holes,
we end up with a nice, simple, and very rigid corner piece to tie everything together. And once I trim the excess length off that last bolt, our pump will fit down through the inside. I have to repeat everything that I've done on this side on the other side, but before I can do that, I'm about to run out of nut slugs again, which means I need to go and print some more, which means I need to go and fix my printer, which is what I'm going to do now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.